All right, welcome to the book, Harlots. I can't believe we made it through all of these books. This is the very last one for now. So exciting. So anyway, we're going over A Warm Heart in Winter this week, and I'm Eliza Mann.
I'm AJ Norris.
And I'm Sage Spelling.
All right. So I'm going to read the back, and I remember to do it this time because AJ always goes, get your book. Remember to do it right before we start recording. And I need it because I'm getting old. All right. So Blay and Quinn always intended to do a proper mating ceremony, but life has a way of getting in the way. With a pair of young, responsibilities to the king, and a grueling fighting schedule, the two are exhausted and overwhelmed. Plus, Lassiter has declared himself head of the parting planning committee in the household. When a nor'easter landlocks Caldwell in a fierce blizzard, things in the mansion go from lighthearted to deadly dangerous. Battling nature and responding to the emergency, Blay and Quinn go out into the storm, and a tragedy occurs that changes everything. In the aftermath, the future is unclear for them, for everyone. A startling discovery offers a way forward. However, if only Quinn will allow his heart to be warmed and his mate's love to light the darkness that consumes him. But will it be enough? So that was A Warm Heart in Winter, the overview. And I'm going to tell you, it broke me. Just broke me down. I think it broke down all of us, but more on that in a minute. So first up, guys, and I know, we've been waiting for this for a long time because we wanted to see Blay and Quinn get mated. But what do you think of their relationship at the start of the book?
I thought it was strong, because, in previous books, especially The Chosen, oh my God, they had, such a rift. And, I thought it was strong. They were really cute together and, very loving and sweet.
How about you, Sage?
I agree. They were really loving and sweet, but Quinn was really attentive, and I was wondering if he had a personality transplant, because it was like, who are you? You are so like we knew he was like really lovey-dovey at the end of Lover at Last. What was it called? Love at Last?
Lover
at Last.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But to see him always focus on Blay over everything else, it was a very different transition for him from previous books. So yeah, I was like, I love it, but like, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think
can you guys hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay.
I think there's a little delay in the but if we don't have like some delay or somebody calling me or something in the middle of the podcast, I feel like it's not really our podcast. So all good. Now for me, I could see a little bit of like the shift passing in the night, like they weren't on rotation together, and there was these extra demands on their relationship. So I did see him being attentive, but I didn't like wonder why. I knew he was kind of overcompensating for the fact that he had to be split in so many different directions, right? So I enjoyed seeing that side of Quinn. I think he was definitely a kinder, gentler Quinn. But I think the kids kind of changed him into the person that he is, which was good to see. We saw a lot of that in the book, but we'll get to that later. I swear I won't jump ahead. So why do you think Quinn freaked out so bad about Blay's injury when he was injured fighting? What do you think that was about?
I don't know. I think he was having some sort of moment. It's like he was like really like obsessed about it. And, like Blay's like, I'm fine. So I don't know if it was just him being bonded male, or he's just feeling emotional for whatever reason. I mean, he had just had a pretty serious injury himself. And so I think maybe he was just, overcompensating, like you were saying about him, being pulled in different directions. But I feel like he was just, I don't know, he just felt he was just being insecure or something. I don't know. It was like, and then there was a storm raging. And so I think his emotions were heightened,
Yeah, a lot going on. How about you, Sage?
So at first I didn't really get it, but I think towards the end I probably thought that he had weird vibes all night, and maybe his weird vibes thought something was going to happen to Blay, because they were first it was like that tarp that flew out and they had to bring it down, and it was just all this chaos. And I think that with the weird feeling he was having that night, it might he most important thing to him after his kids is Blay. So I'm thinking, that might have been what triggered him being so like obsessed with the cut.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of that. I think he was just going through all of these emotions, and things were going good for them. I don't know if he knows how to trust things going well for him without anything crazy happening. So I agree with you guys. I think that was probably a big part of it, because I was kind of like, all right, let the man go, he's fine, like calm down, sir. But I think Quinn always goes from 0 to 100. Like he's never like
never even healed, right?
Right. He's never that
to the other. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, he is better though. We gotta agree to that. So we gotta move to some of the sad parts in the book. When Quinn found out or realized that Lassiter was kind of in the know about what was going to happen to Lucas, was he right to blame Lassiter for that? What do you guys think?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. Absolutely not, because I think what they're forgetting is that he's the new scribe virgin, right? So he actually he keeps a very friendly relationship with them because of the life that he had with them prior. But at the end of the day, there's certain things and certain outcomes in life that he cannot change. It's part of the rules, and he can't. If that was destined for Lucas, it's out of his control. We know that he can only do so much. And if that was what was supposed to happen last, I think he was out of line. If it was a scribe virgin, he would have never jumped on her and punched her. So, definitely out of line.
Yeah.
Like you're saying that he can only do so much. I think part of it is that he can't interfere with free will. And, Lucas choosing to commit suicide is free will. So he can't, who knows? Maybe he talked to Lucas at one time or another. We don't know if they ever had an interaction. So it's possible they did. And, but he knew there was nothing he could do, or, he can only do what he can do. He said that, I don't want to jump ahead, but, but, he said that, well, we'll get to it later, but okay. Just keep that.
You know what? Because of the way it's structured, because everything was in the book and everybody was in the book, we kind of took like couples and events and lumped them together. So it's totally okay to talk about that time in the bar when they finally got to talk to one another. I don't think we have another portion or section in there to talk about it. So share your thoughts about him finally opening up to.
Well, he said, I can only do so much. I do what I can. Lassiter said that to Quinn, because Quinn's like, well, why didn't because Lassiter winds up shielding Lucas's body from the sun, so there was so Quinn could say goodbye, they could have a little bit of a funeral type situation, and and that's when Quinn was like, okay, that was a really cool thing for him to do, and he kind of lightened up about blaming Lassiter for Lucas. Like, wasn't Lucas good enough, and it's like, yeah, he was, but that's not what he chose. So he couldn't choose for Lucas. So
yeah, so I was actually talking about when he kind of got the opportunity to explain to Quinn what he can and cannot do, because I think that's a big deal, right? Because I think a lot of times the impression is that because of the way, like, so for instance, Trez and Trace ended up, together. You know, like that was really awesome, but it also kind of lends to Lassiter being able to do whatever he wants. And there are definitely rules that govern, you know, what Lassiter can and cannot do. You know, we saw a glimpse of him before where he's like, I can't undo anything that the scribe virgin did. And in this case, you know, he was telling him, I can't really tell you something that someone is going to do. I can't really like get in the way of things that are going to happen. I can try my best to make it easier. You know what I mean? Like when he, like you mentioned, he laid on top of Lucas to make sure that he didn't burn in the sun. So I personally, I think that was probably the most emotional part for me, because you can see Lassiter like trying to make things better and dealing with the cards that he's dealt. I mean, we do have more on Lassiter, our homeboy, a little bit later. But Sage, you didn't share anything about how you were feeling about the way Lassiter kind of handled things with Quinn.
Lassiter was just a very different person in this book, right? He was very we get to see glimpses of it throughout the series, but in this book it was more all the way through. And I might be jumping ahead. I remember it might be
we have a Lassiter section, but specifically Lassiter.
Yeah, but in this section, you get to see the really kind and the really intelligent being that he is, and the way he treated Lucas, and you know he was gonna, like, you get afterwards, you see like he had that snowsuit on, he was preparing, like he knew well, I'm gonna do something. So you know he did what he can, and that sit down with Quinn was really important, because it really helped Quinn put that in perspective. Like, he chose this, there was really nothing you can do, you know, we did what we can, you know.
Right. And I think that was just really decent of him. So another part, Blade was feeling bad about spilling, you know, in his pride, that Quinn had been promoted. And, you know, it was something that he, at the time, thought Quinn would have told Lucas, and he kind of spilled the beans, and then Lucas committed suicide. So how do you feel about his guilt over his involvement with Lucas's death? Do you think he should have been guilty, or do you think it was just kind of him taking on that pain for Quinn? What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I don't think he should have felt guilty, but I understand why he felt guilty. You know, that's the thing about suicide. It's like, if somebody has made up their mind, they're going to do it regardless of what you do or say. So that didn't have any effect. He was probably proud of Quinn. And I think he even said that at the time. I think I remember that, but if I remember that correctly. So I think that was a legitimate feeling. I don't think there was any jealousy or anything, maybe envy, but not jealousy, because I think envy and jealousy are two different things. And I think he was just proud of him and glad that he was doing well. And maybe that even, I mean, I think what he said didn't make him commit suicide, but I think maybe it gave him peace too, to know that his brother was doing well. And but that doesn't, it's not a reason that he, you know, I don't think it contributed to his suicide at all.
Right.
You know.
How about you, Sage?
I agree. I think that, you know, I can see why he felt guilty, because he was one of the last people probably to talk to him, right. And he laid that bombshell on him. But the way, you know, it looked like Lucas has been thinking about this for a long time. So I don't think that anything he said would have triggered it in that way. But yeah, I mean, being in Blaze's place, I probably would have questioned it myself. I would have felt guilty kind of too, because, you know, you always never want to feel like you contributed to someone's, you know, bad choice, right? And and I think that's what and Blaze is such a sensitive person, and he's so sweet, that he can't help but doubt and wonder if he had something to do with it. But I don't think he did.
Yeah, I don't think he should have felt like he contributed to it. I definitely know that he, you know, based on how Lucas was preparing, you know, that took a long time. So I know that he didn't contribute to it. But I also think that Blake, in addition to feeling bad about Lucas, I also know, based on how he was kind of dreading telling Quinn that, you know, he had mentioned it to him. I think he also had some fear that Quinn was the old Quinn. That Quinn was gonna, like, you know, we just said he snaps and goes from like 0 to 100. And that is still a part of his makeup, a part of his DNA. And I think, you know, there was some fear there about how is he gonna react to this when I tell him, and will he think that that I'm guilty for telling his brother. So I think that showed, like, you know, flashbacks for Blay, like those moments. And it wasn't on page, but I of course I add in my own shit. But I just feel like that had to play a part with it, because of the way he was sounding Quinn. He was kind of like very apprehensive about it. And I was just like, oh my God, so sad.
To add to that, I agree. And I think a little bit of Blay's guilt had to do with Quinn's reaction, because had Quinn actually read the letters or even mentioned that he read the letters, Quinn, you know, Blay wouldn't had thought all that time and would have blamed himself all that time. By keeping that quiet, and I know he was grieving, and I'm not, you know, everyone grieves differently, and he was grieving, and I get that, but I think Quinn's reaction and not opening up about the letters, like saying, I haven't read them yet, then it wasn't, because it felt like to Blay that it was a confirmation. He read the letters and it was confirmed. I had, my words did something. You know, I had a part to play in his suicide. And
right.
I think that if Quinn would have been open, maybe Blay wouldn't have been worried for that long of time. Because what was it, like a week? It was like a whole week.
And he was like distant during that time. And it was such a departure from what Blay had been used to for a while. So I think that's a little bit of why he was kind of so fearful about telling him in the first place what he had shared with Lucas. So, you know, I'm hesitant because Quinn is mourning to like put this on him. But if he would have been a bit more open with Blay, it probably would have turned out better. But we know how Quinn is, you know. So all right, then we had another big deal that happened at the mansion, and it took up several chapters. And so it was the stormy night scene. It was like super big, and it took over the mansion, and it was like the storm was this living, breathing thing, and it was so violent. It almost felt like somebody else was behind it, not just an act of God, but maybe an act of Davina, an act of the scribe virgin, or an act of Lassiter. So who do you think it was, if there was anything behind it besides just being an act of God?
You know, it's interesting. You can almost make a case for it being Lassiter and Davina fighting. You know, I mean, they weren't, obviously, because Lassiter was otherwise occupied, but I don't know. It was almost seems like a clash. You know, like there's you know, so much what's going on to win these
I
know. So
sorry, my phone's dying. So keep going.
I don't think it was a scribe virgin. I don't think it was a scribe virgin for sure.
Right. Okay.
But it could have been Davina talking about herself in third person, because, you know, Balls had sat up after he was electrocuted.
That's the next question.
Oh, okay. Well, he sat up and he's.
But you can go ahead since you broached it. Balls had a premonition in the middle of it. So while we're talking about this, who was responsible for the premonition? I kind of feel like they would have to be the same, but go ahead.
Yeah, because he sat up and he said, you know, she is. What is it? She is. She is here. The demon is back, and that would be like
your demon is back, something like that.
It would be like her talking about herself in third person, but I don't think that's outside of the realm of who she is. So I think she really was like making a statement. Here I am. You know, like I feel like she did it.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I agree that it could be Davina, and almost in a way where she's like, you know, my brother couldn't get to you guys, but I can, you know, like, look what I can do in just one night and still like, and not even touch you. But you know what I mean? Like, I can feel like Davina was kind of like, you know, poking the bear, you know?
Yeah, I can see
I don't think she can
Davina.
find them, but I think that I don't know. I think there's something where maybe she can see them, but not where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, she
I
knows how to
don't
fuck with them,
know.
but I don't know. I
I
don't want them to. I don't want their. You know, I mean, this is their little sanctuary. You don't want the demons to be able to, you know, penetrate it.
I'm a little of the mindset that, you know, I do believe Lasser was preventing her from getting in. I think Balls's premonition was a result of her not being able to get in, because she tried everything. Like, she walked a tree in, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's what happened. But if Davina were in there, I do think it was definitely the result of some supernatural war that they were waging. But had Davina been able to get in there, she wouldn't have used balls. She would have came in a glittering ass dress, and she'd have been like, "Look, bitches, I'm in here."
I'm here.
You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
believe she was trying. I do think she has some part in this, but I do also think Lassiter was like fighting her. And I think he was fighting her like all through the book. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we know that he is, he can't tell everything. And we also know that he's exhausted after he's done like defending the world and defending the race. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like he was fighting with her and she couldn't make it in. I think she almost made it in, but if she would have, that bitch would have came in there with a glittering ass, like sequin gown and been like, "Oh, I'm home." Who
Yeah,
the fuck put an apple tree on the floor?
and that's like I agree, because I mean that's what I'm saying. I think that that maybe the high winds were them pushing back or whatever against each other, but yeah, it's like, you know, and since Balls had like temporarily died, it's like she used that as a conduit, you know, to get in, you know.
Yeah, she's a bad girl. I don't know. I feel like we all right. I feel like we're gonna hear about what that storm actually was later. But oh my God, it was visually stunning. So we talked about Balls's premonition, but the recipient of his premonition, Z was there, and and Balls looked straight at him, and he automatically assumes it was his mistress. Is he right? Do you guys think that the premonition was about his mistress, or because of what he said, how he said it, your demon is back? So do you think it was definitely to Z, or was it just in general?
It was the demon that's back, not your demon. So I think that, no, I mean, I think he was just being paranoid. I think everybody's emotions at the mansion were high because of the power going in and out, the shutters not shutting, you know, Balthazar almost dying, you know, getting electrocuted. Ah! You know?
Okay. All right. How about you,
I think that he was just feeling away. Maybe partly because, I mean, just everybody was just crazy that night. It was just like this freak storm, and everybody was just reacting to it. And I think that he was, you know, feeling away, but he was, you know.
So I agree that he was probably reacting to, you know, by saying the demon for Zadis, there's only one demon. I don't even think he recognizes anyone else as the demon. To him, his old mistress is foremost the biggest demon of his life, because he's still, after I don't know how many 100 years, he's still haunted by her. And I think that for him hearing that, it automatically triggered something in his mind, where it was almost like, you know how when you are, you know, he's still in therapy, he's still dealing with stuff, but it always takes like one thing to make you kind of go back into that space sometimes. And I think Z is still in that moment. So hearing the demon, to him, he just thought his mistress. But I don't think she would come back unless Davina brings her back in one way or another.
So I'm gonna do some different shit. I think he was talking to everybody, and everybody's demons coming back. I think Lash coming back.
That would be freaking unreal.
I think everybody's demon is coming back. I don't think it was intended specifically for Z, but I think we'll see the Mistress again. I definitely think we'll see the Scorpion Princess again for my boo Rev. I think everybody's demon is coming back. And that is some epic shit when you think about it.
I mean,
so
she is like the queen of hell, right? So she's gonna bring, she could bring them back. Yeah, very possible.
Souls out, and now she has access to those vampire souls because she's in their world. So we have all of these people that were stricken down, and we were finally done with them. And Balls, yes, he looked at Z, but I don't think it was for Z. I think it was for everybody. And I think we gonna see everybody that we thought we were rid of. Well, and I'm scared as hell.
You know, it's interesting because when you look back on the Fallen Angel series, because they were, you know, it's a spinoff. She was more into the psychological game than she was the physical battle, and so I could see her fucking with everybody. And so she looked at Z. You know, she wanted to fuck with Z because she knows that he would interpret it a different way, you know, and the next person, if it was somebody else that he had sat up and said that to us, they would have interpreted it a different way. So yeah, I think you're onto something about the demons coming back. It could just be as visions. It might not necessarily be real. I think Lash will
I actually, now that she said that, I really think that, and if not, maybe J.R. Ward has a new plot, something new for the plot, because that would be some major
shit
terrorizing for every single one of them, because they all have so many monsters in their house.
The demon again in order
shit,
that's crazy. So how do you kill a zombie Scorpion Princess? How do you kill a zombie? Like, anybody could be in that list, right? So I feel like we need wolves to do that though. So let's get them wolves in there.
I guess we'll find out that they're in those wolves later.
I hope everybody knows that I'm just totes making this shit up, and because I could be dead.
This is Eliza's fan fiction.
But I just feel like that would be so awesome. I'm scared to death. I kind of don't want it to happen, but I kind of do. So I guess we'll see.
But I could see, like, I think you're onto something. I think as far as like people's demons coming back and fucking with them, you know, yeah, I could totally see that. And also that whole thing about, you know, she is here, the demon is back. Maybe perhaps they're meant as two different things. Like, but that's kind of what your interpretation is that they're two different thoughts. They're not related thoughts. Yeah. So that could be like they're two different paragraphs, you know. You know, it's right. So I could see her coming back, and she likes the psychological. She likes to create chaos. That's what better way than to have a, you know, and you know, divided we fall kind of concept. I know that's, you know, Marvel.
Yeah, but you know, they're used to fighting. You know, and it's kind of like, you know, you used to fighting this one thing, but how do you fight people that you've already, you know, defeated in the past, and then they're bound to have like some extra special powers when they come back to this side of the dirt, you know.
He's coming back. We know that he's coming back, and he's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, that might just be the first. So
and that's how she's gonna like, because she said, you know, I'll fuck with, you know, humans, wolfen, vampire, I don't care. And what better way and to bring back their demons? You know, can't bring back the Omega, but I think it's because she couldn't control the Omega. So
I don't think she wants him back. I think she wants personal.
And an interesting thing, what I had thought when was that also that the only people that know what Davina looks like is obviously Lassiter, is Butch, because when the Omega came there, everybody got, you know, knocked out. They never saw her.
Yeah, but
I don't think it matters because Davina can change who she is. Like, she literally, like, if she could have got into the mansion that night, and I don't know that she didn't, she could be a doggin. She could be anything, right? So I don't know.
She's too jazzy to pretend she's a doggin. Unless one of the doggins start walking around with some stilettos, then we might have to worry.
I think that her given persona is that face And for some reason, I had it in the idea that she got this face from a billboard or something. Maybe I'm not sure where.
I think in the Fallen Angel series, she like picked up a model, and she prefers brunettes. We know that. So I think her face changes a bit, but I know she always has like that full head of like brunette hair.
Yeah.
So. And, all right. So then we had another big relationship, Lucas and Quinn, because, I think this had been coming to a head for a long time. Quinn was going to have to deal with his relationship with his brother, which he was obviously conflicted by. And Lucas was going to have to deal with his reality in the space that he was in. So first, we know that Lucas was very damaged beyond the physical, the mental abuse that he took, and then the mental abuse of seeing the brother that he thought was so damaged, kind of take his place in the world, so to speak. So first, why do Quinn mention that he invited him to come upstairs to interact with the brotherhood and interact with the families? Why do you think he refused that?
I think that Lucas was so in his head that he didn't want to be around that many people. He felt he saw his physical disformities as a really bad thing, and it has to do with the way he grew up. So we know that wanted to be around people that much, because he felt so self-conscious about everything within who he was at the time. So I think that's one of the reasons why he probably just didn't want to be around everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like a one step further than that. I think it's like, I think that he just didn't feel like he belonged. It wasn't his family. Where Quinn was his brother, but they weren't close. And and Lucas has got to be at least 10 years older than Quinn too. So
at least.
Based on their needings, like he couldn't be less than 10 years younger. Like Quinn couldn't be less than 10 years younger. So, I just think that he just didn't, like, he's like, I don't fit in. I just think he didn't know who he was, anymore, especially being so damaged. And obviously he thought, less of himself because of the Glimera way of thinking, and his father being such an asshole.
Yeah, I think him being differently abled was definitely a factor, because I don't think in his world he had an understanding of what that meant, and that, even though he probably saw people who were differently abled, like, we have, oh my God, Grandpa Fury, and he has a prosthesis, and I think that was probably like following therapy. That probably would have been the next course of action for Lucas. Once he got his gait together and they were able to stop doing surgeries, they probably were going into the prosthesis lane. But I don't think he could see that, because it's definitely not something that the Glimera is really open to. Mm-hmm. And as much as he probably wanted to, because we could see evidence of him changing his way of thinking. We definitely saw that, but I think he thought he was too far gone. And that was the saddest part, is that in the end, I think because of their ability to recover quickly, he probably was like recovering fast, just different things were going on. So I think he had a chance. I think he just couldn't see it, Yeah,
he couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, basically. And even there was that scene when Blade was talking to Lucas about the promotion, it was, Blade's point of view, but Blade said his hair was graying, like that he was just, basically he was dying. He was giving up, because he was only how old is Quinn? 30? I don't know how old is he. So his brother would have been 40.
He can't be more than 40.
Yeah.
He couldn't be more than 40.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right. I mean, because they came. Well, Quinn just had his transition within the last 4 years.
Yeah. So
based on the timeline,
34.
So he probably
So that's what I'm saying.
Like
and then
34.
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
College. Yeah.
So, I think Quinn was 25 when he had his transition. So he was probably like 35.
Mm-hmm.
Although it feels
Yeah,
like,
so he was aging because of everything that he had gone through. You know, it's just like how Torment has the streak of gray hair because he was, you know, so, because of the trauma and the emotional trauma that he went through. So, you know,
yeah, I think emotional trauma can age you, and stress. And he was definitely damaged from just,
I mean, he
being
was
in that
folded up,
bucket.
you know, like a
Yeah,
folding chair and shoved in a barrel. So, I mean, he was
yeah.
just,
It
no.
makes you wonder, like, was his, like, I don't even know how to say it, but like his what did his life mean? Like, what did his life mean to where he struggled, he was high in life, like the best son, the head of the family and all of that, and then he dies. He is folded into a barrel for a full year. Everyone thinks he's dead. He comes back, and then he takes his own life a year later. And it's so sad that he had a second chance, but he couldn't see it. He just couldn't see his second chance.
It was
Mhm.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Quinn would have spent more time with Lucas, do you think, I mean, because Quinn, we talked about earlier how busy his life is. And I know he was going down to see him as often as he could, but he had, he got a promotion because he works hard. He, is always in the field. And when he's not in the field, he's with his kids. And then when he's not with his kids, he's with Blake. So he obviously had a lot on his plate. If he were able to spend more time with Lucas, do you think that would have changed the way Lucas perceived himself?
I don't think so because I think that he was just, this is who I am. I had no longer have a purpose. I'm crippled. I am, I know that's not a PC word, but that's how he thought of himself, as he was just like, I'm nothing. I'm less than nothing. And I think his mind had been made up from the very beginning. And I think that, he stayed around as long as he could to pacify his brother. I don't think it was any other reason than that. I think that he held on as long as he could. He just couldn't do it. And he saw the opportunity. There's this storm. It's freezing cold out. I'm just going to walk out, and I'm not going to be a burden to myself or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was so sad,
So
because
I feel like I have a different answer from that, though. I feel like if Quinn would have found the time, and when you really want to do something, you find the time, and had taken the kids down there more often, because Layla would. He just, like, he couldn't even have a memory of his own where his kids are playing with his brother. If your brother was as important as you were trying to make yourself believe, then you would have made more time. And I think if they would have had that bonding relationship, and Lucas would have understood how important it was for Quinn to have him in his children's life, then maybe it would have been a different outcome. And one of the reasons why I think that rift between them was one of the reasons why it pushed her, was because he took that black robe and he wore it out, and the way Quinn perceived it was that was like the type of black robe they wore on the honor guard when they came out to it. So I think that it all ties in one way or some way. I feel like if they would have had open conversations, if they would have been like, hey, you sucked when I was a kid, you never had my back, you always allowed dad, like if Quinn would have had those conversations with him and said, despite all of that, I am so happy you are here, you are my blood, and had those types of conversations with him, then maybe it would have given him some kind of hope. Maybe he would have opened up about Anna, and he would have told him about him, and then Quinn could have made something work for him. There's so many what ifs if they would have just found a way to not be strangers. Like, yeah, you go visit, but it was like visiting a stranger. They weren't having real conversations.
Yeah,
and I think he just kind of danced around. I think Quinn felt bad and didn't want to have that conversation with his brother when he had been through so much. So I agree with both of you. I think I don't know that you can stop someone from committing suicide if they think their life is meaningless. But I also know that Quinn had some opportunities to infuse himself into Lucas's life. Like, where was he going? Like, bring him upstairs. Don't even, I know it's a lot to go down and be like, nope, I'm taking you with me. But Quinn is no stranger to being pushy as fuck. So I feel like because he was so angry, he didn't like take the initiative and push, him to join in and let him know, it's okay. I feel Quinn because y'all know I was like mad at Lucas up until I read this book. I feel bad for him, but I was like, Lucas could stay his ass in the basement. But so I understand where Quinn is coming from, but I do definitely think if he could have gotten past his anger and my anger, he would have been able to like possibly inform the way Lucas felt about himself. Because
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I agree with both of you. It's not to say that I don't think that Quinn should have just put his ass in a wheelchair and made him go upstairs. I mean, yeah, fuck yeah, he should have. What the fuck? but at the same time, I kind of understand that he didn't want to be pushy with his brother too. Although I think he should have been. But I think maybe he felt like he just, I don't know. He just walked around on eggshells around his brother and maybe he always did. And so he just, and clearly I think the message wearing that black cloak when he killed himself, that was a message to Quinn saying, I'm sorry. I think that was an apology. I don't think that
I felt like the apology was in the letter.
Well,
but I think I don't think Quinn knew how though. I don't think he knew how, because the way he broke when they were beating him the night of the honor guard, he had already been disowned. He had already been through so much, and he felt so alone in the world. And then to find out that your brother was behind, some people trying to stomp you to death, that's a lot to take in. And then he felt extremely bad, as he mentioned in this book, about not working harder to find him. Because he was like, well, I knew, I knew that something wasn't right with those bodies. So, I feel bad for Quinn. I don't want to lay it at his feet that it was his responsibility to, make his brother change his mind. But, what can we do? Well, I do have one more question on that, though. So Quinn, speaking of Quinn changing the outcome of things, if he would have gotten a hold of those letters, like if Fritz would have returned the new homeowner's call, do you think him having those letters would have given him more insight into who Lucas was, and possibly given him a glimpse at, his brother that fell in love with the human, as opposed to his brother that had him stomped in the honor guard? So do you think that would have changed their outcome and their relationship dynamics?
I think that it would have, but if he had gotten the letters before they found his brother, I think he would have just thrown them out. I think it'd have been.
No, I mean before. So even if he would have thrown them out, he probably would have read them, because his brother was still dead and he was still grappling with that. So he would have had the letters if he would have read them. So for clarity, when they found Lucas, or even if he found them after Lucas was in the basement, would that have changed the dynamic of their relationship?
I think it would. I think, Quinn, I think he came a point where he was desperate to save him. That's why he had his leg amputated and all this stuff. So I think that he would have just gone and, and done a V and kidnapped her and brought her back for him, because, he would have done anything. I think he really would have done anything. He just didn't know what to do. And I think that's part of what happened, was that he just didn't know what to do. And I think that if he had something concrete to go after to save him, because how vampires are, they're female always, is, the shit, like, Sola for a sale, I think he would have gone after her and brought her into the world. And obviously there'd be consequences, there'd be issues with her children, but ultimately I think that it could have strengthened and saved Lucas, strengthened their relationship and saved Lucas, because he would have been like, oh, my brother had a secret life. That's kind of cool. I thought,
it is. It made him,
he was a brother. oh, you know, I didn't give enough credit. So, you know, I think that it would have helped in many ways, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, God bless.
Too bad it didn't happen.
How about you, Sage?
I mean, that's basically my answer. I think that if it would have been, if he would have gotten the letters, he would have had insight on who Lucas really was. Because Lucas, obviously, from what we learned in this book, was almost having a front for his parents because, you know, he had this persona that he had to keep for his family, but he was going to leave everyone behind and marry her. He took the time and bought a ring for this girl, you know, before the raids. So it was like he wanted to be with her. And I think that if Quinn would have understood that about him, I think those hard conversations that I was just talking about would have been able to have happened. And it wouldn't feel like it wouldn't have been like they both had to play a role in their household. And I think they would have had in that truce so that if the letters would have gotten there before he came, he would have had the knowledge. He probably would have still had them and had the ring. Like Quinn would be that type that would have left them in his bedside table, right? He would have still had them, and he would have been able to have those hard conversations with his brother, and they might have been able to show him a different light if he would have been able to bring Anna.
Yeah,
you know.
And just one point is that I think that the honor guard situation, I feel like Lucas was a reluctant participant in it, and it was probably the last kind of thing where maybe that situation and that helped him go, you know what, fuck
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Eliza's face because
just like, fuck my dad, I'm gonna buy this woman that I love a ring, and I'm going to tell my parents, and I'm gonna leave, you know. But he just didn't get the chance, you know. And so I think he was a reluctant participant. It was like he had to be there as part of being an official honor guard, you know. His parents were such assholes. So I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have done it. He should have just been like, fuck you to begin with, but he wasn't. He didn't. And so that's
why wouldn't he?
I've been battling it. I'm gonna say it. If he knew he was leaving his family, he had an opportunity to say, fuck no, I will not stomp my brother in the street. He had that opportunity. That part, I was like, I do not feel bad. I do not regret anything I said about Lucas. I do not regret that I didn't like him and I didn't forgive him. I do feel bad that he went out and died in the snow. I do feel bad that poor, beautiful spirit, Anna, which we're about to get to, had to spend her life wondering what happened to him. And I think that affected her mental health because she felt alone and vulnerable.
Right, absolutely.
Him being absent, not Lucas's fault. So those things I feel bad about. But it is only worse that he was already about to turn his back to his family and his people. And then he had the audacity to stomp his brother in the streets for being different, which is what Lucas was becoming. So,
right, because wouldn't it have been better if had he knocked on with the honor guard, went and found Quinn and helped him get to a safe place? Like, wouldn't that have been more into character of who he is, who we learned he was, then you know? So it's almost like he battled who he was. He was part that person and part not that person, because
when he was with her, he was different. Right. Yeah. I mean, we never saw them together, but when he was different, when he was with her, he was different. And I think he had finally worked his nerve up. But I will never forgive him for that honor guard shit. I know, AJ. I know you like, girl, you gotta let that go, but I can't let it go. That was the dirtiest shit in the book. That was the dirtiest shit in this series. Yeah. I have read some shit in this series, and that was the dirtiest thing that I've seen happen in this series.
I agree. I don't think that but I think that, yeah, I mean, I can see it that way. I see what you're saying, but I don't.
Yeah, he was shysty as hell for that. I was like, God damn it, Lucas, you was in the lead.
I don't know. I feel like Quinn's done some pretty shitty shit too. So I don't know.
He has, but not to his brother.
True.
And not to any of the brothers. Like, even not, you know what I mean? Even in his family life, like, they fight and shit, but like he didn't stomp on anyone in the face and have other people
he almost killed Layla. So
we still mad at Quinn for shooting in the room with the baby.
He threatened her life.
Shooting in the room with the baby was it for me.
He said, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah, he did threaten her, so for me, that was pretty bad. But he did not stomp his family in the street with a bunch of other dudes like a fucking coward. That's what he didn't do.
Listen, I can take, if I'm really angry, I can beat the shit out of my own brother. But nobody else can beat the shit out of my own brother.
You can beat the shit out of your brother. But
Right,
I ain't
just
going to
me.
get no. I bet nobody else better not touch my damn brother.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
what
not
I'm saying.
gonna happen. Shit.
This is so
Oh,
funny.
Lucas,
Okay,
may he
moving on.
rest in peace. He's gone on to the fade. So let's talk about some of the finer points of Lucas. We did see the softer side of him. Me reluctantly. But how shocked were you though? Because we did have this impression of him. How shocked were you when you found out that he had this human lover?
You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say about a 9.5. So
I'm
Going
blown
even
away.
further, I'm at like a 15. I went
Blown
off
away. I was like,
all the way
goddamn
because we just talked about him stomping his brother in the face with a bunch of dudes because he had colored eyes and he was disowned. You know what I mean?
because he
Well,
killed
no, it was
Lash.
because of Lash. It was because of
Because he
Lash.
killed
Yeah,
Lash, not because he had 2 different color eyes.
fuck Lash. Okay.
Yeah, that's why Lash put him in a container for a whole year.
It was not because of Lash, and y'all know that. His family were looking for the opportunity to turn Quinn out. It was because he had two different color eyes.
Yeah, that's
and
the
because
only reason.
he had studs and piercings and all of that. They used Lash as an excuse because we know the Grimera get off who they want to get off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that were the case, if he had really done something that wrong, they could have sent Quinn to the penal colony. Right? I mean,
That's true.
Anyway,
That's very true.
it was.
Colony.
How shocked were we with that? So I'm the last one. I didn't even answer that question. I jumped right back to, because I will never forgive Lucas. Anyway, I was so shocked. I had to like read it again. I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I was sleeping. Hold on. Let me see what happened. And so I had to go back and read it again. I was that shocked that he could fall in love with a human. But with that being said, he couldn't see past, it seems, he couldn't see past his injuries to think that Anna would love him. Why do you think that was? Why did he think he was too damaged or too far gone for Anna?
I think it comes from his upbringing. You know, his brother was damaged goods because he had two different colored eyes. There was nothing damaged about Quinn's body other than a blue and a green eye. And he was just, you know, like no good for them. Just a shame for the family, missing a leg and all those health elements. He didn't think that he was, because he was brought up to believe if you didn't look good, then you didn't deserve love, because he saw that with how his parents treated his brother. So I think that he compared himself to that scale, and he didn't think that he was good enough. And Anna fell in love with him being, you know, perfect.
Glamera fine. Yeah.
And how would she perceive him now that he's not? Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, that's true. And I almost feel like, I mean, I just wonder, because we didn't get enough of this, is what kind of nightmares did he have? What kind of PTSD did he have? What, we never really got a real picture of what he was really going through. I mean, we can imagine what he was going through, but we never actually saw it on the page. So we don't know if it's, I think he was comparing himself to the Glimera standard, but I think also that it was just, he just felt like he wasn't a person anymore. He just wasn't, he just didn't even exist. I don't know. I think it was just, I think definitely it was a Glimera influence that probably made him come to that conclusion, but I think that he just really felt like he was a non-existent person. He didn't want to be a burden to her because he thought of himself as, an invalid,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he just didn't, and obviously he knew about her children. I mean, he just, there's so many aspects of, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's really sad. It's very
I
sad.
mean, I think it was definitely that damaged part, but I also think, he had been through so much, and to go back to a woman and tell her, hey, I'm here, and then I'm half of me. And then,
And I'm a vampire.
so we saw that.
And then I can't go out in the dark.
Huh?
You'd have to tell her, I mean, there was like,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
no worries. So, he, I lost my train of thought. Oh, he already had to go back to her as half a person and, say these things to her. But he also, probably was feeling like this could go on and on and on. And, to walk back into somebody's life after several years of being in a barrel, I just don't know if he was able to reconcile that. And then he was probably feeling pretty dark. One of the things that we didn't discuss is that, when Butch had a piece of the Omega's finger in him, he felt that darkness, he felt that negativity and that energy. And we didn't need to see that on the page to know that that's a definite effect of what happens when you ingest the Omega. And he had been ingesting the Omega for a couple years in that barrel. So even if all of these things would have worked out for the good, I think he probably would have needed a shot of Vicious's hand or something to get that negativity out of him. And he didn't have a Vicious to do that for him. So I definitely think while he was probably depressed and couldn't see himself being with her, I think there was definitely, aside from everything else, that negativity that resides in people that have been touched by the Omega, because we see it not only in Butch, but we see it in the lessers. They have that feeling of emptiness and dread and darkness. So I really think that has something to do with it. You guys might
very much well be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think he could see himself, even if he would have gotten counseling, even if he would have, and I know he was getting like PT, OT, all of those things. I definitely think his psyche was affected by being in that darkness and that emptiness that he must have felt all those years in that barrel.
Yeah, that year that he was in there. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, bless his heart. Well, kind of bless his heart. It's hard for me to feel bad for this man. All right, so
all right, we're gonna hope he rests in peace.
Until the fade. At least he went to the fade. Thank you, Lassiter. So the other thing was, what I think we kind of touched on this, like what would have been the alternative for Lucas if Quinn had known earlier about Anna and brought her into this world. I think we kind of talked about that, but is there anything else you want to add on that topic before we move on to the next? No, I'm good too. So what was the saddest part of this Lucas story? For me, the only time I felt bad for Lucas was in this book. But what was the saddest part? When he committed suicide and Quinn was kind of found him still intact, or that he had lost his love and she lost him? Which one was sadder?
To me, it was at the very end when you realize that Lucas lost out on his HEA. I just thought that was so sad. And because it seemed to me they didn't have a sexual relationship, but they had gotten really close, and he was like, I'm gonna propose, because that's how he was, though. He wasn't gonna go and try to be with her, because of how he was raised. But to see, despite them just being really just close friends, she still had that love for him, and he was missing out on the love of her life as well. Yeah. I don't think her ex-husband was the love of her life. So
I don't either.
I thought was the saddest part was that, and also it was bittersweet too, because she got closure on that, and she was able to have this burden lifted off of her, and her kids were still like, okay, thank God mom's back, you know, and gave her her life back, basically. They gave Anna her life back, you know, Quinn and Blay, when they went and
Closure.
gave her the letters and the ring, and you know, it was, I don't know, it was really good to see that. That made me cry. I don't know if that was sad or just maybe just bittersweet. I don't know. You know, so, but anyway.
How about you, Sage?
So for me, yeah, it was a happily ever after that we never got, really.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
That made me sad. But also for me, I think I touched on this earlier, it was just the life that he led. He went through so much and suffered so much, and he got a second chance, and he gave up before he could complete a second chance. And to me, that was the saddest part, where you have you could have your happily ever after if you can get out of your own way. And he wasn't able to do that. And so for me, that was the saddest part, where he could have been happy and found a happy, but he just didn't take the chance. And that to me was one of the saddest things.
Yeah. Y'all gonna be like, you are a raging bitch. So I honestly, the saddest part was for me was that when Lucas killed himself, he created a huge chasm in his niece and nephew's life, because they'll never know like Quinn's people. And I'm not blaming him, because again, I do understand that there's just some stuff that you can't fix. Like, no matter, even if they would have given him a bionic body, I don't know if he would have ever been able to get that darkness out of him. But the sad part was seeing that his life was interrupted, and it had such a significant impact on what Quinn thought he had left. So I wasn't really remorseful about, because Anna recovered, you know, when she got that closure, she's so much better off now. So I kind of see her as rebuilding. And yes, it's sad and it hurts, but I think the roughest part was the irreparable damage that's done to Quinn and his family. So a little different, but you know, I don't know that Lucas could have been fixed, because he has so much darkness inside of him. You know what I mean? I don't know what they could have done to fix that. It's sad. So that's the part that made me sad, because you know, they need for the ramp and the baby girl. What the fuck is her name? Help me out.
Lyric.
Yes, Larry. Lord have mercy. Lyric and Ramp. I think they needed a uncle, but they have uncles. So, oh, good. All right. So now we're past the sad part. There was some pretty happy shit. We got to see everybody in the world from the household, and that made my day. Before we get to Biddy and the babies and all the good stuff, though, we're going to talk Lassiter, because he was a lot different in this book. I already mentioned earlier that I feel like he was like fighting 3 battles or something, because he was so like kind of melancholy through the whole book, and you know, dealing with all these things. Do you think he was out of character, or is this just more of what we can expect from him while he's dealing with so much? What are your thoughts on Lassiter?
Yeah, I don't think he, you know, had a lobotomy or anything. I just feel like he just, I think it goes back to what he said before, was that I do what I can. And he knew, acting like a buffoon during this situation, not that we don't love his buffoonery, we do, but acting like a eccentric and dressing all flashy and blah blah was not what Quinn or anybody else needed to see at a time like that, you know. And I think that he read the room, you know, basically. And I think he does read the room, you know. And he explained, I don't know if it was this book or the last book, how he says, you know, he watches that crazy television, you know, because it distracts him from everything that he has to deal with, all the emotions, all the, you know, all everything. So
all everything.
How
about you, Kate? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done.
My bad.
No, I mean, I agree. I think that he, it was a very different atmosphere in this book, and with the sadness hitting close to home and with everything going on. And I hadn't really thought about him fighting with Davina, but that makes a lot of sense. So there could be, that could possibly be one of the things that he was dealing with. And I think that his spandex and his boas and shit, they're not going away. They'll come back, but I think he'll wear them when the time is right. Like they're too much a part of who he is to like completely get rid of them. And he dresses for the occasion, like when he was dressed in his snowsuit in this book. And I think in this book, they needed him to be more of a leader than just acting out. And I think that's the hat he wore. And I really hope that it doesn't stay so melancholy, because his voice really is makes a lot of those scenes. So I really want more. I want him to stay the way he is, but I like seeing the growth in him as well. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's ever not been out of character though. So I don't think this was out of character. I remember him having those moments when he was dealing with Tori in the cave, and when he, there's times, even though Lazarus is big, over the top being, you can like point to times when he was who, that person needed to be, like specifically Tori, because that was when we saw him go through like 50 shades of emotion with Tor. Like he was telling him about, his lost love, and telling him, you got to stand up, and then telling him you killing Wellesley, like all of those things. He wasn't the assless chap dude in those moments. So I think it's always been there. He just never had to, show those sides and be that person until, the time is warranted. So I don't think it was outside of his character. I just think there was a lot happening in this book, and he was dealing with all of that. And I definitely know he's gonna always be Lassiter. But because in the last book we saw him kind of like standing up there like, yeah, bitch, it's me. And, so I don't think that'll go away. I think it's just different dimensions to his character, because none of us are all one thing. So
what I find interesting is I actually think that he was in. This is kind of off topic, but it just came to my head, and I just want to say it because it's like the last book we're going to read for a while. So like one of the things, like I think Tor, when he saved Autumn, when he went up and he talked to the creator or whatever, I think that, or maybe he talked to the Sky Virgin. We don't know who he talked to, right? To get her to be able to come back. And I think that that's the moment when the Scribe Virgin said, okay, you take my job and I'll save her. And I think that he traded his own life basically for that. So I don't know why I'm bringing it up now, because it really doesn't have anything to do with it, but I just thought
I'm not mad at you for bringing it up, but you know how I feel about the Scribe Virgin. I feel about her like I feel about Lucas. No, I don't.
Well, was she at the mansion with all the craziness? Was she at the cat through all this craziness? Was she there to help protect them? Why is she there?
I think she's still there. I definitely think she's, watching over her kids. Because I wouldn't be, who wants to be outside of their kids' lives? And she missed so much of her kids' lives. So I think, now that she's on vacation, I don't think she gone though. Like I feel like she's gonna come back one day.
We'll see her again, because there's still that favor that.
Yeah, I definitely don't think she's gone for good. I think she's just taking a recharge break because her little light was going out. Her little light of mine. Her little light was.
I don't think the light was going out. I think
it was dimming.
It was dimming, definitely dimming. But it was feeding off of her emotions as well.
Yeah, so I don't think I would say that it's dimming or going out. I just think that
I wasn't saying that she was done.
And and the interesting thing is, like, how do you? Because I don't think people are going to be like, how people, they say dearest Scribe Virgin, that expression. I don't think it's going to be like dearest Lassiter. I think it's still going to be that, and I think she realized as a deity, as a creator, she can't be this micromanaging. She can't be that, you know, for somebody to have faith, they have to have faith. And it's faith of something they don't know, they don't see. But so you can't have faith in somebody that you know personally. You know, I mean, like as far as like a God, as religion and God and stuff.
But like nobody has saw them except the brothers. Nobody saw it. No one had that like.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Even them, they were losing faith. Like even them, they still
see
question.
that they're still saying like the scribe virgin, dearest virgin scribe. You know, I don't think people are losing faith in her. I think she lost faith in her. Mm-hmm. When I said her light is dimming, I mean she is emotionally drained. And I think a lot of that happened when her daughter, oh my God, Pain was like, you a bitch and I'm out. I think that was her last straw. And B was like already like, bitch, you know, like I can't deal with you. I hate having you as a mother. I don't think it was that people lost faith in her and she couldn't draw on their emotional energy. I think the people that she loved the most lost faith in her, and that killed her. That is killing her. So I think that's when the light started dimming, because everybody noticed it. It was like he wasn't this bright, vibrant thing. The birds weren't as chipper. Things were changing. Fury took the chosen away from her, and then her children turned their back on her. She doesn't handle change well. So she dipped out for a minute. I don't think she's gone. I think she just dipped out because she needed a minute. She was like, everything fucking changed, and I feel betrayed. And you know, you have to deal with that. And I don't know if she's able to deal while she's still being the scribe virgin.
Yeah, right. She had to take a break.
Huh?
She had to take
a break. Yes, for sure. You know, who knows? She left, and we got a whole ass pandemic. Maybe she needs to come back. Anyway, all right.
You know, but I think she still wants to watch over her creation, which makes sense. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, do you think Lassiter, speaking of Lassiter and his governance style, do you think he'll intervene in Lucas's death? Do you think he could come back in another form? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't like to see him come back as like human or something, but I would like to see him come back. I don't know how that can happen, but I think that it's possible. But I don't think he'd come back as human to be with Anna. I think that ship has sailed because she's moved on and she's became happy. I don't know, but then it could still happen. But I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I could see him being, you know, giving him life anew, so to speak. But I don't know, like, how that would happen. You know, how would that happen? I can't fathom it. But I think. How
about you, Paige? I'm sorry. Go ahead. AJ, I keep cutting your endings off. I'm so sorry. Like, what is wrong with me? What else are you going to say? I'm
nothing.
Sorry. Okay. All right. I won't do it again. How about you, Sage?
I definitely think he would seeing by the way that he does things. We don't know what happened to Lucas, and we don't know, you know, he said he's in the Fade, but is he? Like, is he going to give him a choice like they've given others in the Fade a choice before? Do you want to come back? I mean, he could get like a John deal, right? Where he comes back as someone else, but still has his, you know, his soul basically inside.
Same DNA actually, but yeah.
And DNA. You know, we don't know, but I feel like because his happily ever after should have been Anna, I feel like if he does something like that, it would be with a human, and then she wouldn't be with Lucas per se, but it would be, you know, like a John type, but human. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. The only problem I have with it in this world was that how would you fit that into the story? You know, you couldn't. I mean, because then you're talking about having a separate side story that doesn't intertwine with the BDB world. I just don't see how it could work. But
he could bring him back as a wolf.
A wolf.
He
I
could be.
think,
I mean,
the-
I don't
the
know. We don't
world
know
is
what this world
open.
is gonna bring
Right,
us,
right,
right?
right. It's true. It's true.
So I just feel like the way he works, he will do something. He won't let an unhappily ever after pass him by. I just don't see that being something Lassiter could
We'll
do.
see. We'll see. It'd be nice to see him get an HEA, but we'll see.
I don't know. I'm kind of good with him being gone. I hate to say that. Y'all probably like, this bitch will not let him live. And I just don't. I don't want him back. It's not. I feel like Lucas is finally at peace, and he's finally in the fade. And he got in there on the wing of a prayer. And I think sometimes people have to stay in the fade. I think Wellesley had to stay in the fade. I think Lucas is one of those people that have to stay in the fade, no matter how we want his ending to be. Like, I would love to have seen Tor have a baby that was his own. I think that would be a great thing for Tor, but you can't just, you can't undo everything. And I don't know that there's a way for Lucas to come back and fulfill all of those places where he's missing now. So that would have to be the reason that he brought him back. So with Selena, she came back as Race, and she's fulfilling all of those places where she was, like she can interact with the Chosen, she can interact. For Lucas, he don't really have anybody to interact with. So it has to be more than just he needs to get his HEA with Anna. And Anna moved on. She got a beautiful ring out of it. Let's let him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see how it could work. It'd be nice to see it.
I can see it happening. I can see how it could, but I don't want to see it.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a full book. It could be like a scene.
I'm good.
Like somebody does a dealing with a psychiatrist, and her husband that looks just like Lucas is in the picture.
I don't feel cheated. I don't feel cheated.
Book about it, but I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said she could do a standalone like Dearest Ivy about it, which you could, but he'd still have to be a vampire.
Mm-mm. I went through Lucas's death and all the grieving, and I'm done. I got to go ahead and move on. I don't want to see it no more. I mean I hear you, and I'm sure it doesn't rest on my shoulders. So if Lassiter sees fit, but I don't need to see it. I don't feel like there's more story to tell for Lucas for me, but. With Selena, I was like, God damn it, I want her back. And Wellesley, I was like, shit, but with him, I was like, oh, that's so sad. Can we move on? Because I sound like this huge bitch. People are like,
yes, let's move on.
I don't miss him. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I love Quinn more than I love Lucas. All right. So, on that note, we saw some other folks' compassionate side. How about Core? He had an opportunity to observe Quinn with the babies, and he was so understanding and kind. And we don't get to see that often because he is a fierce warrior. What do you think of how he reacted to him? I think he paid Quinn a fantastic compliment.
Yeah, he said, because, yeah, he did, just saying, the baby is still safe, but, they know they're safe in your arms. And it's just such it's not a turnaround from how he was at the end of The Chosen or anything. So I don't feel like he's out of character because he had a character arc and he changed in the end of that arc. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's just a continuation of that. And I like when, he doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does speak, he's very poignant. And I really appreciate that about him. And he does deserve Layla,
Mm-hmm. So. Agreed. Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, Sage?
Same, I agree. I think that we've seen so much kindness in him that statement is not shocking. You know what I mean? It's very in his character to make that kind of profound statement. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, he's just a respectful and kind, gentle person. Even though he's this big, bad warrior, In the inside, he's just a gentle guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
not my character.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree. That's what I was gonna say. I think I don't think it was out of character. My thoughts are we don't get to see it anymore. We don't as much, you know, we don't get to see him interacting with his family and with the kids. And it's really nice to get that part of him because lately, you know, for a lot of characters and because the world is so big, there's so much happening. Some of our old favorites and the things that we love about them, we got an opportunity to glimpse that in this book. And on our last, no, not our last question, but while we're talking about the household, speaking of favorite characters, Biddy was a party planner. She was so cute. Like she knew so much. So is she like being homeschooled? Like I didn't know where she got all this intuition, and she was just this amazing kid, and able to be like, oh, I'm gonna take you through these traditions and Christmas and this and that. So what did you guys think of Biddy? I knew she had it in her the whole time.
I just
feel
feel like,
Biddy
yeah,
was my homegirl.
I just feel like she's an old soul, and you know, I just want to know what the schooling situation is with her because she's only 13. So it's like, are the dogging tutoring her, you know, because Mary's at work and Rage is doing his thing. I mean, so who, you know, who's spending a lot of time with her? How does she spend her time? You know, and I'd like to see a day in the life of Biddy. I'd love to see that, you know. So
She's adorable. How about you, Sage?
That would be cool. That would be very cool. A day in the life with Biddy. I mean, there'd be a lot of ice cream, some hanging out with dad and watching movies. But yeah, what I love about Biddy is how she views relationships and love. Like she's so insightful for being so young. I just really enjoyed watching it. Like, you know, when she was talking to Blay, and she was like,
we can't hear you.
He loves you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. You guys should be mated proper. Like she was just having this how, yeah.
Am
I cutting out?
You're like cutting out for me, and I don't know if it's just me or.
I don't know. It's okay. You can move on.
No, I mean, I
know
what you said. Yeah,
like, I know what you were saying. You were saying that the scene with her talking to Blay about them getting mated. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. I think I can see a day in the life. Now you were talking about seeing somebody more. I could do like a whole Biddy like montage. Like she is so cute to me, and I just adore. Like every time she's in the room, she like lights up the room. She's kind of like baby Lassiter for me. I adore that kid, and I can't wait. This is a later question, so I'm gonna bypass that. But I personally can never get enough of her. So what I was about to say too soon, as usual. We saw a lot of family. What was your favorite family scene, and what would you like to see in the future for your favorite person in that scene?
Obviously, you know, I love getting back into Z's head because he and I love his relationship with Nyla, and I love how he was so adamant, like she's never leaving the house. She's, you know, like having all these like never gonna happen moments. So what I would love to see is when she goes on her first date. Like eventually she's gonna go out with a boy. You know, like Bella's not gonna let him keep her locked down. So I can't wait to see the scene where the boy comes to the mansion to pick her up. You know what I mean?
Like
for
bad
a date,
boys.
or she comes back and says, "Hey, we've bonded." I mean, I can't, like, those things, man. He's gonna
I just say it's like Bad Boys, you know, the daughter and was like going on her first date, who she ended up marrying in the last one, but and they were like, how old are you? You look fucking 30. love that. I can totally see them doing that.
Right, and I can see
AJ.
all the brothers circling around them, and that's like all the girls. So it would be like Biddy and Nala and and whatever girl will be in their lives at that time. I can totally see them doing it. They're gonna be freaking hilarious.
They're gonna want to chaperone these dates.
Yeah.
They're probably
the thing
like
is, it's like,
raped
they're
on
not gonna
all
come
of
across
them.
the
Like,
mouth,
you know, he turns into a dragon, he will eat your ass. So he's gonna be chaperoning every freaking day. Poor guy.
Could you imagine the destruction that will happen?
Oh,
they're not gonna
every 5 minutes.
Like, period. I feel so bad for those girls, all of them. They're never gonna be able to date. AJ, I'm sorry, did we get yours? Your favorite scene and I don't think we did. No. Favorite family scene and what do you want to see?
Not Zia and Nala, because I thought that was adorable because she's like, Daddy, you know. But I don't know. I liked, and this is something I didn't touch on when we were talking about how Z had talked to Quinn about, you got to cope better. But I like the scene where he was doing CPR on Baltazar and Balls, because his way of coping was to sing. And I thought that was really, it's actually pretty cool. I liked that. And he's like, don't die on me. And he's like, he's trying to stay calm. So he starts singing, and he, I don't know.
Very nice.
I love him. So,
I know you love him. You love him. You love Balls.
And he'll do more hugging than he used to do. He's still, let it be my decision, but he's starting to, not change because he already has, but just be less fearful, I think, less distrusting of people. So, or at least the ones that love him. So.
I heard my blinds clicking in the background. I almost left because my heat kicked on and my my window treatment started clicking again. I almost left. That was a fucking lesser. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Davina.
Yes.
It's Davina. We don't have any more lessers.
Stay out of
it's
here.
It's a shadow.
It is. Oh! Yes, it could be a shadow. Ooh. Anyway, so it's my turn to talk about it.
Well, then you wouldn't be running
about shadows coming into my house. Anyway, so I think my favorite scene was the actual mating scene. And it was because I waited so long to see Blay and Quinn get mated. And I really enjoyed Lassiter's role in that. I really enjoyed how the entire household came together and supported them. When Quinn was having such a rough time during this book, it was nice to see him come around and just be wholly happy. I enjoyed that for Blay, and it was probably one of the most heartwarming scenes for me in the entire book. So that was my happy place for this book. I was trying to get to the end, oh, they got to get married, I can't wait, so I love that Biddy was we got a wedding cake for you. And it was just adorable. It was everything. And for my future, y'all know I love all things vampire. I would really like to see taken outside of the training center. There has to be vampire academies or something like that. That young adult experience is what I think I've been craving, and it's so good to see it. And I would love to see these kids interact where they're growing up, because this is the first generation for a lot of these guys that are not traumatic, right? So their kids are definitely different than how they were raised, especially Quinn, who was stolen and made into a slave. Fury spent his life looking for him. There was not, and Raph, his parents died, so these kids are growing up with fully actualized lives that their parents wanted to have. So I would like to see them interact, especially since the Glimera is kind of disrupted a bit, and there's this opportunity for the Glimera to be different. So I would love to see interactions with civilians and Glimera and the training camp. I'm sorry, not the training camp, Lord have mercy. The kids from the mansion going out into the world having their like academy and us getting to see that, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just merged two worlds. I totally fan fiction that shit, but it would be great.
But of course, like
You created a new
Vinny had a
spinoff,
rough
a
start
new
though,
young
so,
adult spinoff.
yeah.
I can't do it, but I would not be mad at J.R. Ward for doing that for us. And then, you know, like my granddaughter and I could read those books together. It would be totally awesome. Anyway, so that's what I want to see.
I mean, Biddy had a hard start in life, so I don't know. Like that's gonna catch up to her, and there's gonna be a story behind that. But you know, I mean, she's good now, but because she's happy and she feels safe. But I think emotionally, as she gets older, especially having a first relationship, she's gonna have some issues. You know,
I don't think so. I think the difference is like Rage had those parental issues. You know. Well, Rage didn't really have parental issues, but he knows how those his siblings were brought up. They didn't have the love that he had. I think he's very conscious of that. And I think Mary is very attuned and astute when it comes to dealing with past traumas. So I don't think Biddy will have, issues like that because she happens to have a therapist in the house that's her mother. So I think they're going to deal with that. So
I think also on top of that, she has the example of all the other relationships in the household that are all healthy, really healthy relationships. And I think that's why she's so keen. And when I said that earlier, like on how she views relationships and love, I think she has a very keen eye for it because of her experiences. I think
yeah, I almost think that she's somebody else, and we're going to find out more about her. That I don't
want her to be though. I just want her to
be
I
like her the way she
I don't know. I think there's going to be something there.
What is this obsession with you bringing people back? Everybody can't come back, honey.
Well, I still want Havers to have HEA. I know you Havers, but I don't know this male. I don't know what it is, but I don't
want that.
I don't want any more humans in this world. That's
all right. Well, say that out loud. Loud and proud. No more humans. Down with the damn humans. All right. So that was my last question for the night. But I did want to bring up that we have a little gap between Lover Unveiled and Savage. I keep wanting to call him Savage, which is like that Dior perfume or whatever, cologne or whatever. Anyway, Savage is next in Lover Unveiled, and that is in April. So to fill that gap between the next book, we're going to talk about The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, which happens to be The Bridgertons on Netflix. And I know 86 million of you guys watched it, so we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. I get to talk about my homeboy, Ray J. Jean Paul, not Page, but I'll get to talk about him and him being the Duke and all the things related to those sex scenes. Till then.
And the spoon.
What?
And the spoon.
Oh, the spoon. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? What I got on me? I was drooling. That man is hot. He is so good looking. So anyway, so you'll hear all about The Bridgertons. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and binge it on a Saturday afternoon. It is so worth sitting there for 8 hours. We're going to read the book, which we haven't done before. So that'll be fun. So we'll see you then. Thank you so much for hanging out with us through all these books. It's been a blast. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.